Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for this Griffith University alumni webinar where we'll be looking at the topic of cybersecurity and the global responsibility we all carry for cyber hygiene. My name is Joanne Nyland, I'm the Deputy Director of Development and Alumni at Griffith University, and I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which those of us in Australia are respectively located. Pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. It's been an interesting and often challenging year this year, and we've lost some of the face-to-face connections we've previously had with our over 200,000 alumni around the world. But like many organisations, we have adapted and we've changed the way in which we do things. And so being able to deliver today's event and other similar events online provides the opportunity to connect with so many more of you than might otherwise be possible. And this has definitely been a silver lining for us. We do greatly value our relationships with you and love to stay in touch. And that's why this year we're doing a major Reconnect campaign to find those alumni we've lost touch with and also to enrich the information we know about those we are connected to. You may have seen your invitation inviting you to update your details recently. Your assistance in updating your own information and encouraging those we may have lost touch with, but who you might still know, to update theirs would be appreciated. I'm sure the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting many of you, and we of course wish you all the best as we navigate through this. For our current students, this is perhaps the most difficult time they've faced as they continue to do their best to study when, for many, part-time work has dried up. Alumni support of current students through donations to our annual appeal are more important than ever. There is still time to support this important appeal, and the students it supports would be most grateful for your donation. Before I introduce you to our speaker, just a little bit of webinar housekeeping. A tip sheet on how to participate in today's session was emailed to you. However, just a reminder that you can ask questions about the content at any time in the Q&A panel on your screen. I also need to let you know that this session is being recorded and content will be shared at a later date. So if you would like to post a question but don't want to be personally identified, please check the anonymous box at the bottom of your question panel. We do encourage the discussion to continue after today's session, so please share any key learnings from today using the hashtag #GriffithAlumni on your social platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter. And I'm delighted now to introduce you to Associate Professor Vallipuram Muthukkumarasamy, or Muthu for short. Muthu obtained a Bachelor of Science in Engineering with first-class honours from the University of Peradeniya in Sri Lanka and obtained a PhD from Cambridge University. He has pioneered network security teaching in the School of Information and Communication Technology at Griffith and leads the Networking and Security Research Group at the Institute for Integrated and Intelligent Systems. His research expertise is in cybersecurity, blockchain technology, and wireless sensor networking. Muthu has been successful in attracting national and international funding for his interdisciplinary research activities and has published over 150 articles in international journals and at conferences. Muthu has successfully proposed and led the development of the first Master of Cybersecurity program in Queensland. He is a favourite among students and has received a number of Best Teacher awards. He's actively involved in the community and in charity activities, and he's a member of council at Griffith University. So I'll hand you over to Muthu for today's presentation.
Welcome you all for the webinar. I'm going to talk about cybersecurity, a global responsibility. And I also would like to pay my respect to the elders, the past and the present on the land on which we are meeting today. The cybersecurity landscape is changing rapidly, and that change has been accelerated by the COVID-19. Businesses and nations are struggling how we can reimagine our processes and the activities. Cyber is ubiquitous. It empowers you, business, and the countries to prosper. The cyber constitutes an extraordinary threat to everyone, including national infrastructure, national security, the foreign policy, economy. In fact, cyber has enable the cyber war, the cyber espionage. Everything is coming on the cyber. Therefore, let's look at what is in it, unpack the cyber and see. Okay, I'm going to go through the overview, cybercrime. What is cybercrime? Probably you are familiar with it. Let's take some examples. Then look at the digital economy, the data breaches. Probably you are familiar with that. And then some of you may not be aware of the fundamentals of cybersecurity. I would like you to go through that. At the end of this webinar, you will be equipped with the fundamentals, every one of you. And then we will briefly look at the risk evaluation and the management. Then about the future, the digital identities, the challenges and opportunities. Finally, some Q&A. Cyber. The cost of cybercrime, the Australian Cybersecurity Centre estimates it's about 29 billion per year for the Australian businesses. And every 10 minutes, there's an incident reported in Australia. And cybercrime is one of the fastest crimes in the world. Possibly the COVID-19 has taken the precedence and the economic hit has become massive. However, the cyber is going to be the one after that as well. Online economy is growing in an unprecedented manner. Therefore, we individuals and businesses and countries, to be competitive, we must be smarter and on top of cybersecurity. So you all are in the right place. Have you seen this news? It had come up either today or within this week. If you have not heard about this, cyber attacks are no longer a front page news item because that is happening daily, almost. So you are ordinary if you have not heard about it. If you heard about it, that means you are in that business, cyber business. Some of you may be able to recognize some of those pictures here, whether it's a centrifuge attack in the nuclear power plant in Iran, or election rigging, or it's a bank robber, or it's a satellite launch, some attack, or some normal business, a target business. And the hospital system, the we-are-griffithalumni, anything is common. If we want to get a picture overall around the world, how these cybersecurity commitments the different nations are making, this heat map gives an indication. The green, dark green, says stronger commitment. Red, strong red, says less commitment. That doesn't mean the cyber attack is less in a darker green part. There is more reward. If there's more reward, there'll be attack as well. That's a different issue. When we say about the attack, cyber attack, probably you are very familiar with the ones that you are seeing, whether it's the Indian bank ATM, money out, or hacking Singapore, the health records, including the prime ministers. In the previous slide, I had the heat map and Singapore was #1 in the cyber commitment. So as I said, the commitment doesn't necessarily correlate to the resilience, cyber resilience. Now, in a data-driven economy, data is gold. That is considered as the new oil in our era. Digital economy rewrites the rules. It fundamentally transforms the business strategies. So we need to be prepared to change, agile, dynamic. The most important change is we had internet of information. That is changing to internet of value. That's a huge change because of the blockchain technology, the distributed ledger technology. That means now the data that you send on the internet carries value. It can be a cryptocurrency or crypto asset. That is very different. It's a paradigm shift. That means we are going to have more cyber threats, cyber attacks. We need to respond quickly, otherwise we lose the game. And cybersecurity is not a static one, it's evolving. Therefore, it becomes a challenge for us. Countries take a note of it. For example, Australia, the chief scientist declares cyber security as a national priority, research priority, because it is a threat to the national critical infrastructure, water, electricity, transport, communication. The beauty or the danger of cyber is that the attacker or the adversary need not be closer to the infrastructure. He or she can be on the other side of the globe. And what is needed is just to change a 1 bit from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. That can make a havoc. How do we prevent it? Can we prevent it? What is needed? So nations are struggling, people are struggling, individuals are struggling, businesses are struggling. Australia Cybersecurity Growth Centre, in their research, they find skills shortage is one of the key issues in tackling cybersecurity. Why? It's a high demand. That means not enough people to train people. And not enough people would like to get the full training before they are being grabbed. Say Australian statistics, Australian Industries currently employs around 20,000 people, and they need 16,000 more within the next 5-6 years. But there aren't enough graduates coming out of the universities. So that's a key problem. Therefore, can we become a bit more educated, bit more aware of cybersecurity? What is cybersecurity? I said you are going to take away the fundamentals of cybersecurity after this webinar. Data security, that can have different characteristics. For example, confidentiality. Everyone knows what a confidentiality is. Integrity is another characteristic of security. Authentication, non-repudiation, availability. These are some of the characteristics of security. Each of them requires different ways, different mechanisms for protection. What you see here is probably you heard of encryption, the word. When somebody says about cybersecurity and security, people say encryption. What is it? We have something and I would like to encrypt it, make it confidential so that others will not understand. So I transform something, the question mark, to something on the right side here. People will not understand. Can you guess what's on that right side, please? Can I get it back to the left side? It's a guess for you. Very difficult. I just want to say hello. And that was translated into the right side so that people will not understand, will not easily understand. What I simply did was I was shifting the alphabet one place. A becomes B, B becomes C, H becomes I, E becomes F, L becomes N, O becomes P. That's all I did. I used a key, a secret key to do this. That's +1. Someone can use +2, or tomorrow I can use +3 or -1. That key can change. It's like your password. You keep changing. If you know the key, you can recover the original message. We call the original message as plain text. And what is encrypted, we call it ciphertext. So we have already learned an encryption, a key, a plain text, and a ciphertext. Then you know what a security is. Let's do some more. Instead of the characters, we could have ones and zeros. That's what normally computers handle, the digital system handles. So you see ones and zeros. There's another key, again ones and zeros. Your password is just 1 and 0. And it is converted to ciphertext through a transformation. The transformation can be any mathematical function. That's all. When we go further, what you see on the bottom is the ciphertext is equal to plain text to the power of the key mod n, where P is the plain text, C is the ciphertext, N and K are numbers. This is the famous RSA encryption that is even now used. So you know what an encryption is, even the powerful encryption scheme. So are we safe? No. Data breaches happen every other day. Whether you are famous or not famous, it happens. If there's a value, if there's an attacker, he has the know-how, then they can compromise you. So what do we need to do? We need to be aware of it. Can we do a small test here? Every one of you. Are you all ready? For a small test on cyber, please. Let's see. Have you ever experienced a cyber attack? Yes or no? Please answer yourself. How do you detect an attack on your system? And if you detect an attack, do you know what to do? I know if somebody met with an accident or emergency, in Australia, I need to call 000 or in another country 999. But if you met with a cyber attack, what do you do? Do you know that? Do you know how to prevent? These are the basic things we need to be aware of it. If you are not aware of this, that is not good. That's why I said the responsibility is on everyone. So you are in the right track because you learned what an encryption is, what your responsibilities are. Let's go through some more details. Cybersecurity is not just technology alone. It involves processes, people, and policies. The most dangerous one in that equation is the human. Social engineering is one of the common attacks. Probably you have heard of it. You get emails, you get phone calls, the phishing attack, all kinds of this. That's part of the social engineering. And your awareness and understanding makes a huge difference in this game. Therefore, I take you to another level in the fundamental of understanding cybersecurity. Maybe you have heard of public key encryption, commonly used. Here, instead of one key, we use two different keys. Earlier, I said for the encryption, we use a key. We use one type of key for the encryption. And to get the plain text back, the reverse process, your partner has to use a different key. It is like you lock the door with one type of key. To open the door, you need a different key. That's called public key encryption. The two different keys are called public key and the private key. This is what it is used in your SSL or secure transfer. When you do online, your bank transfer, this is what's happening. The bank gives their public key to you. You encrypt, hey, transfer $1 million to Muthu's account. You lock it with a public key. No one can open it except the bank. Only the bank has got the private key. So they open it. This is the public key encryption. So you now know one more technique. The last mantra in cybersecurity I'm going to reveal you is called hash function. This is a one-way function, that is one-way property. It's like a valve. You can go through that valve, but you can't come the reverse direction. You put a message and get a small hash value out. It's a fingerprint. It's like my students writing a PhD thesis and they write on one piece of paper, I declare this. That's a fingerprint of the thesis. Similarly, in the digital message, we pass the message through the hash function, a mathematical function, example, an MD5, and we get a hash value. It's a fixed small digester that can be used to test the integrity of the message. If you are downloading a software, normally they give you a hash value as well. So you can check whether the software is tampered with or not, whether it's altered, whether there is any virus in it or not. You use the hash value for that. So now you know in and out of security. Is that the end of the world? No more data breaches? Well, the survey around the world says the data breaches are very costly. It's about $4 million on average a data breach cost for businesses. That's a lot, maybe. Small businesses, in percentage wise, they get a bigger share, so they attack more. What is more important in this slide is the time taken to identify the breach. It takes over 200 days to detect an unwanted party is within your system. It's like a snake in your bedroom. If it takes 200 days to detect how bad it is, this is the problem with the cybersecurity, just to give an indication. So what do? Nations around the world, smart people, they're working on it. They come up with framework. Okay, this is a NIST, the National Information and Standards Technology, the US one. It comes with the 5-step process. One is identify your assets. What is there to protect? If you don't know, have you got gold? Have you got some intellectual property? Have you got some important people? What is there to protect first? Then you see how I can protect that asset. Come up with a strategy. Then, in case, that's a prevention. In case, if your protection fails and the attacker gets in, are you able to detect, not waiting for 200 days? Can you detect it in 2 days? No. Can you detect in 2 hours? Can you detect in 2 minutes? That's smarter. Then having detected, how do I respond to that? Have you got a plan? Or now only you want to develop a plan? So we must have a plan. Then the businesses need to come up with a recovery mechanism. Business continuity plan, the bank is attacked. Can we put a message immediately to customers and move to a site where basic services are provided? Business continuity. Then disaster recovery plan kicks in. Then come back on the cycle and retune your process. Why we do this? Security and privacy, it becomes a concern for individuals as well. One of the examples is the recent COVID-19, the contact tracing app around the world. The people are very reluctant to adopt that because of the security and the privacy concerns they have and the lack of trust on the government. That's the trust is another security issue. How do we bring trust back? Trust is a very expensive commodity, I tell my students. You all trust me, that's why you are listening to my webinar. That's a good thing. Now, always there's a risk. If you want to get higher rewards, there is higher risk. How do we manage the risk? What are the strategies we have got? It depends on your business. Are you prepared to accept that risk? Yes, I'm going to lose the pen. I may lose the pen. I'm ready to accept it. Or can you avoid that risk? No, this is too much. This life and death, I'm going to walk away from that. Can I mitigate the risk? Can I educate my employees? Can I learn? Can I upskill myself? Can I go through some of the security controls? Mitigation mechanism. Or can I share my risk with someone? Maybe I'll take an insurance, outsource it. These are risk mitigation strategies. To do it properly, you must have a good understanding. I can tell lots of stories about cyber. Say in the C-suite, in the boardroom, it's used to be a game. We'll take an insurance, cyber insurance. What is it for? Nobody knows. What does it cover? Nobody knows. Because there's a lack of awareness, lack of understanding, but it's changing. Mitigation strategies can vary from simple encryption that you have learned, or it can be more complex encryption to some protective mechanism like malware protection or third-party updates, physical access control, that's part of the cybersecurity. Intrusion detection prevention, policies and procedures, making aware the employees, disaster recovery, business continuity. And then these days, probably most of you are using multi-factor authentication, not just password only. You need to have a device, or you need to have a phone or something to authenticate yourself. That's the new norm. Above all, what is more important? Awareness. Are you going to write the password and put it underneath? That is the lack of awareness. Cyber hygiene. As we know, COVID-19 is not a magical thing. It's easy to prevent, but we need to change our behavior. It's a simple one. Can we do it? It's extremely difficult. The world is struggling. Same thing with cyber. Cyber Hygiene 101, password, begin with. We all use password. We should use not simple password, not something which is associated directly with us so that others can guess. We should never ever share a password, even with your loved ones. Ask them to have a separate password. It's a good cyber hygiene. Software updates, you must do that because there are vulnerabilities. It comes every other day, so you need to patch that. Otherwise, the attackers can easily find the holes and get through that. What happens is, if suppose it's like what's happening now in the COVID-19, maybe teenagers, they are not asymptomatic for COVID-19, but the negative thing is they can carry that to other people, more vulnerable people. Similarly, my son, he uses a computer, he doesn't care. So he creates holes that become zombies for the attackers. The attackers never attack an institution or business or others from their own computer. They find enough zombies around the world. Those computers become the attackers. So cyber hygiene, even if you don't have the valuable asset, it helps in the overall sense. Always please back up your data, regular backup. If you're using wireless network, then make sure you are connecting to a legitimate access point, because there can be rogue access point you could be easily hooked on, and all your password can be stolen easily. Email attachment, common one. If you are not 100% sure it is legitimate email, legitimate attachment, please do not click on that. Do not open that. Do not click on links which you are not 100% sure what it is. Is that all? Data breaches continues. Whether you are high and famous, doesn't matter. It happens the recent one, the Twitter accounts compromised. How? It is always, security is a balancing act. It is not an absolute thing. I repeat, security is not an absolute thing. It's a balancing act. Multi-factor authentication, as I said, you are using it. What is the fundamental on that? The fundamental is that three things. What we know, the password we know, and what you have. We have a token, we have a phone, that's what you have, and what you are. That's my fingerprints, iris, or my voice, that's what you are. So these are the three things we use for authentication. Now, in addition to that, we are trying to enhance the multi-factor authentication with a hardware security module. That's the tamper resistance hardware coming up. It's more expensive, but defense and certain other institutions are trying to use that. Another area is zero trust model. This is a new thing coming up, probably with the COVID-19, it's expanding. Never trust anything. We used to have a perimeter defense that's within the institution, internal, less control is needed. It's fine. But now with the remote access, zero trust network is very popular. Users, devices, application, network, data, everything needs to be verified, authenticated for every attempt. And user is given least privilege access. That's one of the mantras in security domain. Probably there's a question coming up. If I can pick up. What cybersecurity risks have arisen with the increase in people working from home during lockdown? Okay. As I said, security, we all are connected. It's an interconnected world. Connectivity is very high. More than 80% of the world population is connected. That's a big number. And the number of devices connected is more than the number of people. The attacker needs to look for the weakest link, not the strongest link. As soon as the attacker gets in through the weakest link, he is successful. So if you're working from home and if your network, if your devices are not secure enough, that's the weakest link in the network. So we need to be aware of it, cyber hygiene, protection, all that comes up. I'll take one more question before we go on. How would you propose the best strategy for organizations to mitigate cyber threats, risk? What sort of framework, incident response policy? That's a very nice question. Please employ me as a consultant. Look, what I can say is you need to go through the cycle. One size doesn't fit all. It is like, look, my son is sick. What medicine should I give him? There's no answer for that. You need to see what the problem is. What is the asset you need to protect? Who are the adversaries who might attack you? Is it your neighbor, or is it another opponent? Is it another competitor, another nation, or what that is? So we need to sit down and go through that. Identify the threats, identify the vulnerabilities, then come up with a mechanism. That's a very good question. You need to do one of my courses possibly. Thank you. The new challenges, we are walking into that. Internet of Things, IoT, that is, what is that? It's a sensor. Maybe you have a sensor in your garage, maybe a remote control. Maybe your fridge has got a sensor. You could control the air conditioner from your office, home air conditioner. All those sensors on the IoT devices, connected devices, 2 to 3 times more than the number of people connected. So the devices are less powerful in terms of memory, the bandwidth, the processing power. Therefore, they cannot run very good security mechanism. So they become the weakest link. We need to be careful on that. The other one is supply chain. We rely on a lot of things, a lot of supply, not self-sufficient anymore. Therefore, any of the elements in the supply chain can become a threat for you. The third-party risk for businesses is huge these days. And we are moving to cloud because infrastructure as a service, very nice. We don't need to have a physical infrastructure. Everyone puts the data and the equipment on the cloud, easy. Yes, it comes with a cost. How secure it is, do you know what is happening? Who your neighbors are on the cloud? The tenants next to you? Whose application is running next to you? We don't know. That becomes a shared responsibility. And I'll show you some example. Attacks happen very often. That's another bigger problem for us. Artificial intelligence. That's a huge thing. That's a benefit as well as a cost for us. We can use it as a benefit because it can learn and it can detect, it can prevent as well. The attackers can use the same tool to attack us. So this is a double-edged sword. That's a problem. Distributed digital trust is a new thing. Trust, as I said, is a critical factor. How do we build? How do we get the digital trust? Quantum, is that a threat or a help for us? It's a question mark yet. This is something you can see what is happening today. This is probably today's news in one side, in our part in Brisbane, and the same yesterday as of today in the US as well. The top one is the Cisco network attack on the cloud. So cloud is the next vulnerable target because we have less expertise on that. As I said, connected devices. These days, our vehicles, our phones, everything is smart. Smartphone, smart vehicle, keyless entry. Yes, everything is automated. That means they become the vulnerable place for the attacker to get in. All those places need to be protected. Have we got the skill set to do that? It's a question. What is the road ahead for us? The future is in our hands. I'm glad you all are listening to this one. That means you are in the right side of the fence. A few things I identify for the future. One is the digital identity. The security builds from the identity. What we have at the moment is a physical identity, your passport, your driver's license, or identity card. That's a physical identity. In the digital world, it is not correct. We need to move for digital identity. There's a physical digital coupling. We do transaction digitally, the physical objects. Example, diamond. If you search diamond blockchain transaction, you will see how the physical digital coupling, that coupling point becomes the weakest link. And because of the COVID-19 and other things, zero-touch systems are on high demand. And then distributed digital trust is another area, I think, which will pick up. Privacy and security by design, not after design, try to patch, but before design. Awareness, preparedness. I repeatedly say, you are here. Everyone is responsible. Everyone should be made aware of it. Fundamentally, ethics. We can train somebody with a powerful machine gun. If the person is going to misuse it, that's a problem. So ethics is important. When we teach security, we begin with ethics. Australian government has come up with the roles and responsibilities for individuals, the community, the business, government, different roles. So everyone has a role to play. On the digital identity, self-sovereign identity, that's catching up. Here, example, when I go to a place, they have an age restriction. I show my identity, that is the driver's license or passport, to prove that I'm over 18. Should I do that, or I need only my age needs to be proved, nothing else to be given? So that opens up a new domain, self-sovereign identity, and a credential issuer, holder, and a verifier. This is possibly another paradigm shift with the zero knowledge proof. You don't reveal anything unnecessarily. That's zero knowledge proof. Pseudo identity, not the real identity. You can have different identities for different services, and it's very difficult to interconnect. Linking is not easy. As I said earlier, the blockchain, DLT with AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, probably is going to help cybersecurity with challenges as well. Always, you need to be ahead of the attacker. You cannot be a lot better than the attacker, because that means you are investing a lot. You'll be fired as a chief security officer. If you just miss the barrier, you'll be fired because your system is compromised. So it's a balancing act, and it is continuous. Yesterday's solution may not work for today because it's continuously evolving. Education is the key. Say, for example, the cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? What's the curriculum for that? Only 2 years ago, the IEEE, the ACM, came up with a cybersecurity curriculum. And Griffith is one of the very first to introduce a program based on that cybersecurity curriculum. So it's education, skill set development. The main areas of need, I can say, managing the trust gap. Trust is very critical. Digital trust. Can we build digital trust away from the centralized trust? Societal and governance issue and digital identity. These are possibly the new areas which needs help from you and the researchers. So what I have touched so far is something fundamental for everybody, and something food for thought for business people, policymakers, and some areas, challenges for researchers. I'm happy to collaborate on any of these matters with anybody. And cybersecurity is not an absolute thing. It's a balancing act. All the time it's evolving, and it's everyone's responsibility. Cyber safety is fundamental life skill. It is like driver's license. You need to have a license to drive a car, but there is no license required to use a computer or the phone. So cybersecurity becomes a fundamental life skill, and it's challenges all the time. And with that note, I'm happy to go through the Q&A. I'll pick up, there are lots of questions have come up. I will see. Number one, how big the role does blockchain technology play in creating digital ID? Okay, we don't know. We are working on it, and it has the potential. Blockchain technology came in 2008. We are 12 years from that. There is, except one or two, there's no credible application yet. Trillions of dollars pumped into that. Why? Technology takes time. Mobile technology came in 80s. Now in 2020, about 40 years, now only we are trying to get the best use of it. It takes time. So for your question, probably there's a good opportunity. The reason is the pseudo identity. That has a critical part. The slide I put there, number of people have come up with that. That has a good potential. Possibly in few years' time, it'll come into practice. My belief is that there are lots of experimental pilot studies done, but not in the commercial implementation level. Another question, are there any good training programs on cybersecurity that you could recommend for organizations to share their employees? Absolutely. Depending on which part of the world you are in, which part of the state you are in, there's always a hype. So you need to understand the quality. What is the outcome they are going to produce? Is it money making? Is it just commercial oriented? Or is it fundamentally they are trying to educate you? Is there a value into that? So I'm happy to help. You need to do the due diligence on that, not just the glossy brochure or the YouTube video. Don't go with that. You need to see what is their experience, what is their skill set on the cybersecurity, the people who are going to teach. Look at their track record. That might be a good example to see. I'll pick one more question. You mentioned that the use of blockchain technology to carry assets value across internet. What are the key emerging threats? Well, I had a slide, but I took it out. If you Google my publications, it will come up. One of my PhD students had a digital asset paper published recently. When it comes to the digital asset, it becomes a crypto asset. Is it tangible? Is it non-tangible? And is it IP, intellectual property? Or is it some property you have got? What that is? Then the couplings becomes different. Then you said blockchain. Different blockchains. We still don't know how two different blockchains can communicate. When I say we don't know, we have published papers. That's at the research level. It might take 5-10 years to get into practice. So there is a lot of work needs to happen on that, but has the potential. The blockchain is not very far from what you learned just now. It's a public key encryption, hash function, the two primary mechanisms built into that in a clever combination. Okay, I work on a human rights environmental issue. How much can we trust big tech companies from accepting our personal data and sharing with government authorities? Well, it's a very good question. How do I know that? Do they know where the data is saved? They will say it's in the cloud. They'll give you a piece of paper. And who is handling the data? What protection mechanisms are there? What is the API protection? And they will say customers are shared responsibility. That is the employee's shared responsibility. So depends on exactly what it is. It is like we are having two cars and comparing it. How do we know what is good, what is inside, what is the engine, what mechanisms there, what are the safety mechanisms? Security mechanisms provide service. The service that you want for data here, what you asked is, I put it on the slide, confidentiality, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation, availability. Those are the services you need. Are they guaranteeing the service for you? For example, my students, when they graduate, they say, look, I want to work as a security consultant. So they tell me, because they learned, I go to the bank and ask them, look, I can provide a service for you. If you want confidentiality, that will cost $100,000. If you want integrity, that will cost another $100,000. If you want availability, it's another figure on that. So security is a blanket word. As you may know, the conventional security, in the name of security, lots of things happen. Same thing with the cyber as well. When there's a lack of understanding, lack of clarity, same thing with the blockchain. I'll give you an example. I was in a conference a few years ago. There were 8,000 people. They asked, how many people can explain what a blockchain is? The answer was, in the previous year, there were 2 people, and this year there'll be 4 people. So that what I'm saying is the real truth, the fundamentals of it. Then we can evaluate, okay, whether this blockchain system is good or this blockchain system or this cybersecurity. The question asked the human rights. Are our records secure? Privacy is guaranteed. We need to know all the bits and pieces, how it is done. To compromise, people had to change bits to 1 to 0, 0 to 1. How do we prevent that? Is there a prevention mechanism? We need to go through the detail. I'll pick one more question. I have been subject to ransomware attack. I'm sorry to hear that. It's personally. What is the first response make apart from getting stressed? I'm sorry to hear. You are not the only one. You are expressing it. That's very good. Ransomware is very common for individuals, businesses, and the nations as well. What is happening in the world is cyber attack everywhere. What you hear on the media may be different because that's what you would like to hear. Media might highlight that. The question is ransomware. Prevention is always better. If you cannot prevent, what to do? It's a very hard thing. We recommend do not pay that ransom money. That is not a good practice. Please contact the law enforcement authorities in your country, in your estate. Yes, we say in Australia, it's pretty good. You contact the law enforcement authorities. Then they will give you some advice. When it comes to cybersecurity, few things, awareness and sharing information. It's like COVID-19. The governments these days encourage people to share information. That's why they set up this cybersecurity growth center, the incident response center, all that, so that you share. Then somebody will say, hey, it happened to me. Other people might become more aware of it. They might protect it. So in short, please contact the law enforcement authority, and you may want to read a bit what kind of attack has happened to me. What can I do on that? Because it depends on the particular attack as well. What's the level? Some of the ransomware, certain people might be able to recover the data. That depends on the level of complexity of that. I'm sorry, I will not be able to give a direct answer to that unless I know what is the type of attack. Do VPNs provide valuable protection? Okay, this is like, I feel cold. I'm buying a jacket. Is it giving me a real protection? I don't know what it is made of. VPN is basically a steel pipe. Internet is like an open ocean. So anyone swimming, anyone going on the ship, we can see, anybody can see the data on the internet unless it's protected. Protection encrypted. VPN is basically a steel pipe encrypted from your computer to the other end. So the data going through the pipe will not be seen by others. That's a virtual private network, not a public network, not an ocean. That's the meaning of VPN. Now, the issues are, what do? What you learned just now, a security encryption is encrypted. The main issues with the VPN, the pipe is connected. The steel pipe is connected to your computer. The connecting points are the leaking points. How tightly it's connected in this end and on the other end, what type of VPN you're running, it depends on that. Then it could be connected very well. The pipe is very well connected. You already got the attacker inside your computer. Then what can prevent that? The attacker can just do the key locking, get your password. That's a secret. The only thing in cyber attack is they need to know the key. They can guess the key, random, trial and error. The computers can run through millions of options. The problem is we need to have a mechanism. You try 3 times, the system should lock you out. So it prevents from that kind of thing. So VPN, yes, it's one of the security mechanisms, depends on what type of implementation you have got and for what purposes. That means you have a defense mechanism, and who is the attacker? Is that sufficient? Look, my house, it is fenced. Should I put another fence? Should I raise the fence to 10 meters? Depends what you have got inside the asset. What is the risk level you can manage? Okay, I'll take one more question. What are some of the motivations that drive their attack? That's very good, small businesses. So it's another area. Cybersecurity is not just technology. It involves criminologists, the sociologists, the business people, the lawmakers, because we are trying to find out why they are doing this attack. What is the purpose? Is it monetary purpose? Or is it to defame somebody? They were angry with some company. Some of the disgruntled employers, those who left the employment, you will see the one I showed earlier is a Cisco former employee who was attacking. So what is the reason for that? For them to do it? There are different reasons. Nations, espionage, cyber attack happens. That's for different reasons. So the reasons are different. So it is like you are walking on the street, someone attacks you. What's the purpose? Depends. Maybe you are a VIP, or you are carrying some valuable, or they have mistaken identity, or just for fun, or they were drunk. There can be different reasons. Fun. Teenagers, just for fun, they would like to hijack a website. Oh, I'm not happy. I want to show my talents. I would like to bring down a famous university website. Just I want to post something. So it can be different reasons. Okay, cybersecurity is a small world. However, it covers so many areas from policy, law, compliance, enforcement, technology, ICT. Well said. This whole chain, what could be the best strategy to ensure examine there is no weak link like a checklist? Okay, that's very good question. The cybersecurity program that we designed, Griffith University, is a true interdisciplinary program. Always interdisciplinary work, research, teaching becomes a challenge because other people will not understand, will not value. And how do we go through that? So cybersecurity as an organization, they must have this interdisciplinary skill, at least to appreciate the level. So it's a real challenge. That's one of the reasons. But it is changing, gradually changing. The C-suite is now getting people with that kind of skill. That's why I say if everyone has a basic knowledge, understanding of cybersecurity, that helps the humanity, I can say. One more question, possibly. How often do we change password? Would contact password change result in people setting weaker password? Okay, it's a very good question. It depends again on your activity. The password for your workplace should be different from your social media password. The password for your banking should be different. Password for other community activities should be different. Have separate passwords. And some of the passwords need to be changed more often. And I can tell you, if you Google, it might come up some easy ways to get password generated from what you can use. Use a passphrase. For example, Muthu's presentation was good. And then shift one of those characters here and there. That may become a password for you. So changing password is not that difficult because, say, for example, I pick password. If I want to change a password today, I pick something from a passphrase I can think of and make a shift, make an alteration to that. Then that becomes a personalized password. I think the last question, because the time is coming up, do you consider password management tool like 1Password an unacceptable risk? This is a tricky one you're asking me. It is like my wife was asking 2 weeks ago, can we go to a financial planner and give our money to him so that he can invest and get a better return? And last night on our TV, on the current affairs, there was a news item. Someone has ripped a family 900,000 retirement savings. And supposed to be an investment advisor. How do we know? Is the risk more by keeping the money with us and investing, or employing somebody? How good that person, how good the password management tool is. It is like antivirus software. Is it good? The question, how do we know that? And how smart you are in using your own password, in creating your own password. If you can manage your own password, depend on what kind of business you are doing and how many passwords you need to handle and what is the level of risk you can manage. It's a risk evaluation coming in. If you can manage without it, that's fine. If you're working in a business, your organization will tell you what kind of system you need to use. So it's a detailed evaluation need to happen, risk evaluation, and then come up with a strategy. Probably that comes to the last question, conclusion. And I would like to thank you all for listening. It was a pleasure talking to you virtually, and I'll hand over back to Jo.
Thank you, Muthu. Some really interesting insights, and I certainly learnt some things there. I probably wasn't aware of the volume of staff working in the cybersecurity and protection space, keeping us all as safe as possible, nor perhaps the volume of and types of risks that we're all at risk from. I really hope you all got as many takeaways from that as I did. Thank you for all of your questions too. There were many more questions that we were not able to get to, so we'll keep those. We'll look to get Muthu to answer those for you in the coming weeks. Slides from this webinar will be sent to you via email after this session, so please keep an eye on your inbox in coming days. And this email will also contain a short event feedback survey. We would appreciate you taking the time to complete this survey so that we can continue to improve what we offer for you and your alumni community. If you want to know more about what we do in alumni engagement or the ways in which you can continue to be involved with your university, please get in touch with us at any time. We are on social media, on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, so just search for Griffith University Alumni. And I hope your association with us will continue for many years to come. I'd like to sincerely thank Muthu for being here with us today, and to all of you for joining us online from all over the world. It was great to have you here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.